Lee, we're surrounded. Come on, use your super.
Do you think I should?
Well, yeah, I can't.
Remember what happened last time?
We don't have a choice, so crack on. Come on, we've practiced this, mate. Lee, you're embarrassing me. There's lots of things coming out. Just try harder.
I think I got it this time.
Oh, shit. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming. Today, you're here with me, the Majestic Snare, and this, some demon scum from a dungeon I found a few weeks ago. It's Lee.
I'm Viscous Jelly.
Yep, you are. So, today is a review of Wolcen. I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, or Wolcen.
Maybe
Wolcen.
Well, I've heard Wolcen.
Yeah, everyone has been saying Wolcen. But it's by Wolcen Studios.
Wolception!
Which used to be I think it was a Kickstarter, wasn't it, this game?
Yeah, it was a Kickstarter, yeah.
That caught my eye very briefly on Steam.
Didn't back it.
Didn't back it at all. Now, I caught it on Steam. It was launching. It was like, oh, that looks interesting. And on the face of it, it looks like a bastard child of Diablo and Warhammer 40k. Do you agree with that?
No, it doesn't have guns. Well, it does have guns, but it doesn't have, like, huge laser guns.
What I mean is the aesthetic of the characters. They look very kind of Space Marine-y, don't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of big shoulder pad action going on. In fact, some of them look like they've got cities on their shoulders.
Yeah, quite literally. Yeah, I don't know how. And the people, like the differences in sizes. The men are like 4 times bigger than the women.
Yeah, it's very comic book-esque
in
that regard.
But yeah, it's basically put in a very small, like, closed box. It's a Diablo clone, but with a few tweaks, I'd say.
Yeah, it does do some interesting new stuff that I really wasn't aware of, but it doesn't do a very good job of telling you about it in the game. There are things that we actually had to Google to figure out what the hell they were.
So, in terms of the way the game's set up, you have an offline mode and an online mode. I've not tried the online mode because the servers went up when I started playing, and it's not a character you can transfer across. So I've been playing the offline mode as a kind of a sorcerer type. But that's one of the things that this game does that I think a lot of action RPGs don't, and that is allowing you to mix and match between those classes, which I found a refreshing take on how to play the game like this.
Yeah, it's nice to have the option. I think I've been programmed after like fucking 30 years of RPGs to like go, okay, I've got a mage. I need magey things. I'm
still doing that.
Yeah, I'm still doing that as well.
Can't break the habit, man. It's like crack.
It's like, okay, I've picked melee, so I'm a warrior, so I want big armor and strength and lots of big weapons. Or I'm a rogue, so I want lots of agility and bows and daggers. But even then, you can like dual with a bow and a dagger. Well, not a bow, obviously, but a gun or one-handed dealy.
Same with the sorcerer. You can use a catalyst and maybe another melee kind of weapon.
Yeah, it does say you can use. It's like, I think there's like staves in it. It tells you that you can use like, this skill is only usable with a staff or a stave. I've never seen a stave in my life, so I've always got a two-handed staff.
Yeah, no, I've only seen staffs so far.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's me misremembering or they just have put something in there that's not there. Because I expected like kind of a wandy type deal, and then I'd have a catalyst in the other hand. Yeah, but no, it's just the staff.
Well, we can say off from the off that if you're a fan of those Diablo type games, where it's just, you know, hacking, slashing through a level, collecting loot, and then cashing in that loot or upgrading your gear with the new loot, you'll enjoy this game for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. It does. It's like
scratches an itch, doesn't it?
It does seem like it's taken a lot of different aspects from a lot of different ARPGs and used the best parts.
I'd say, yeah. There's a few things missing as well, though.
Yeah, so like you've got different. Like, you don't just get armor off of armor, you get like force shield or resistances or extra
types,
health.
Yeah.
So you can build it so you've got like all the health or all the force if you want, or you can spread it over, and that's very similar to other games that we've seen.
Well, one thing I did notice, very very small difference, is you can actually have shoulder pads and like what they're called pauldrons, pauldrons and like the forearm guards.
The braces.
Yes.
But
the two separate parts, and usually it's just like an arm, isn't it?
Yeah, but now they have the two gloves separately. But the graphic is always the fucking left hand. So I went for ages looking for a right hand glove. Without realising you could just drop the left hand glove on the right and it switches around.
Oh my god, just stop watching now. Fucking hell, Lee.
What? The gloves
you
are
could have kept
different.
that to yourself.
The
No,
thumb
look
would
idiots.
be here. You have a thumb on the back of your hand.
So you're expecting to find fucking a left-hand glove, right-hand glove. What a dick. Comment down below if that's the most moronic thing you've heard about video games in the last, 20 years.
The graphic is a left-hand glove. I'm like, okay, that's good. I've already got a left-handed version of that, though. I want the one from a right hand. It made sense in my brain.
I've got nothing to say to you about that, mate. I've got nothing to say.
They kind of just dropped that on me. I hadn't heard that before.
No, I can't believe you put that on tape.
Tape? What are you, the 80s?
What do you say? You put it on tape.
It's not tape, it's a card.
Well, it doesn't have the same gravitas as they put it on cards, does it? Anyway, shut up. So Wolcen will take you through a number of acts in the offline mode. I don't know. Is it 3?
It's 3.
And I've got most of the way through the second act so far. Played for about sort of between 15-20 hours, something like that. And the game does evolve and give you more things that you can do, but it's still quite a challenge in places. I started on normal, and it's nothing at all from killing any of the normal enemies until you get to the bosses. The boss fights are a little bit more involved, and they actually need you to be not just, I've got a really strong power, and unless you've grinded ground
annihilation.
Yeah, which I have, but I've got other powers as well that I've put up into certain levels. And the boss fights are difficult. You have to do some finagling around and work out a strategy. So well done for that, because it's not just a case of walking and going, boss man dead, like Diablo 3 when they nerfed it all.
Yeah, I mean, like initially, like fighting Diablo with like a melee character was a fucking nightmare in that game, and now they nerfed it. And well, I managed to beat it initially because I did the wizard and the disintegration dual-handed thing, and kind of just mulched him. But like certainly after the nerf, you were able to go back and pretty easily take him down with a melee character.
And it's not the case of Wolcen. The bosses are a lot more difficult to get to grips with. They're interesting enough in terms of like attacks and stuff. They do feel different. They do have their own kind of personalities, you might say. But I think in general the game feels satisfying because you're doing all the things you enjoyed in Diablo, of collecting loot, cashing it in. Well, mind you, some of the actual cashing in stuff mechanics is a bit off. I didn't agree with that too much.
Yeah, it's certainly when you go to sell stuff. Normally I'm just used to like right click, but it's almost like you have to wait for it to sell, otherwise it won't pick up the next one.
And although it's nice to have an interaction with the vendor, I'm sick of hearing this line where he says, "Your business is appreciated." Like that starts to grate on you after the 7th time.
Or that's a real nice piece of work there. Or something to that effect.
Oh, it's just... It seems like the vendors are all foreigners. They've just generally picked all the...
Well, depending on where you live, of course.
Yeah, but there's one you find out in the wilds who is very kind of Nordic sounding, like Icelandic.
You want to sell at my shop?
No, that's Danish.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah. But they do sound kind of just... and it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just very noticeable that the vendors seem to be the people with like You've got the Nigerian guy that's selling you all your kind of general inventory store.
So is this like the Quantic Dream thing when French children would suddenly pop up in American roles? You'd be like, what?
Yeah, kind of. But I don't know what the team is, and if they're just using people in house to voice those things. And if they are, they did a grand job. The voice acting on the whole is pretty good, and there's occasional kind of like tongue-in-cheek jokes in there as well. And some of the acting.
There's a few
bad.
modern terms I've noticed as well going through that seem a little bit out of place, but they're done with a sense of fun, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, so I think on the whole, you're going to enjoy this if you are a fan of Diablo. Nothing's going to turn you off. There is a lot of noise on Reddit and the internet about Wolcen being a broken mess, and it's not what people were promised. And coming from somebody who wasn't promised anything and didn't put any money out at the start, I don't see an issue with it at the moment. I haven't tried the online mode. I don't know what exactly was promised. I'm just looking at the game as it is.
Well, I'm pretty sure the online mode was an integral part of their promise.
Yeah, but I think there are telling things. I mean, we know what happens at the end of the game from seeing some other reviews. I haven't got there myself, but you definitely haven't either.
No, the trouble was it was a question of do I try and try different builds, or do I try and progress further through the game? And I went with the build option.
But there's a bit more of a base building aspect. Very much like the Assassin's Creed game.
What, where you just left it running for 3 hours and then bought everything in the game?
No, but it was the one where you build up. So I think it might have been 3, where you actually invested in bits.
What, in the manor?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was where you got an income from it that you could take out and then go spend. So what I would do is I would just leave it running and go do something else while it was gaining money all the time.
It gave you money, but not like life-changing amounts.
Depends how long you left.
Because money wasn't. The thing was, in Assassin's Creed 2, the money didn't actually matter anymore after a certain point.
Yeah, because you had so much.
Too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to Wolcen, I'm hoping that might get built out in the future. And when I start to experience it, I can obviously have an opinion. Right now, it looks enticing that at the end game, there's actually an end game, rather than just repeat like Diablo used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the repeating stuff at all, because it gets you an opportunity to max out your character and get better gear and stuff like that, and do it in a way that's not just boring, that you are still having a story to go with it.
And while it's not too easy to do so, if you're one of those people who likes to min-max and like really go into stats and builds of certain characters, the depth here is here for you. That there's so many different particular properties that armor and weapons can have, that you'll find yourself digging into and working out exactly what you like. Now, you all know that I like Warframe, and mods are a big part of Warframe, and that's easy enough because you get a mod and you can rank it up or down, stick it in, and use other mods with it. In Wolcen, you can obviously have to find the piece of gear you want, but you have to understand what those particular stats and things are going to do to each other, and how it's going to work best for you to particularly I mean, the stats are fucking huge. If you look at the profile of what your particular arrangement is, you have to scroll down.
Yeah, you get like a rare gear type, and it's got like 5 different buffs on it, and if you want to like really dig and really sort of work out how the most efficient you do your character, it's great for that. I'm not really interested in that, so I know I've not got the most efficient build, but I just pick out like a couple of aspects that I really want, and I just put on anything that's got that with higher numbers.
Yeah, so you can do it either way. I'm just saying that the depth is there if you need it and you want it. And this is a AA game. This is not a AAA title.
£35, when I say.
And one of the big bits of beef people have is that this should be a beta version rather than the final.
I don't see it. I mean, for the most part, I've not had any problems. There's been a few bits and pieces, like some of the hit detection when you try and click on things is a bit off. Certainly bats in caves. If you click on the bat, it doesn't click. If you click underneath the bat, then that's your sweet spot. And I just spent so long running around in circles where they were mauling me because I'm trying to click on these fucking bats. So I just ended up wasting all my spells on them. But outside of that, it's really well optimized. Runs really nicely. 1440p, full bore, 60 frames almost all the time. In fact, I've left the FPS frame counter on in the footage that you will no doubt be seeing. So you can see how it's performing. I think it dips to like high 40s in busy areas, but outside of that, it's pretty much 60.
And one thing I will say is that the way that I've been playing Wolcen, it's been enjoyable. And one of the mechanics I did like the most was this kind of switch between willpower and rage.
Yes.
So instead of just having a magic meter, it's combined the kind of the willpower and rage as a sliding scale. So you can have some at one and then it becomes the other. So if you are a melee character, you're going to be using rage to fund your attacks, your special attacks. And if you're a mage, you'll be using willpower for your spells. So if you can dual wield, you can get yourself into a situation where you have almost limitless energy.
Yeah.
You can do melee attack, throw out a spell, melee attack, and just bring it back to forwards into each other. Really nice idea, and I have to say it's executed pretty well. So it does make it worthwhile getting to know how to use that, because there's nothing worse than running out of power and then getting squished.
No, and you can get buffs and skills that actually increase the transfer rate between the two as well.
Exactly, yeah. There's two particular stats that get confused, I think. There's a time reduction and a minus time reduction.
Yeah, some of the wording is a little bit like it's like plus 30, and you're like, I don't want more, and it's like plus 30 reduction. Oh, okay. It's like, why not just minus 30 then?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of bugs and things that I've seen, there are quite a few game-breaking bugs in here, but few and far between that will actually affect your gameplay.
So quite a few game-breaking bugs, but few and far between that will affect the gameplay.
I'll just play longer than you. No, what I mean is there are things like waypoints. I've used a waypoint, gone back to town, and then the waypoint has disappeared off the map. So I can't go back to where I was, and I've got to go through that section again.
I've not seen that. Are you sure you're not clicking the pad rather than the portal?
No, because the portal is, you have to create the portal when you're out.
Yeah, you create the portal, it appears over the travel pad, and then to go back via the portal, you have to click the portal rather than the pad.
No, I went back to town from the actual pad.
Oh, so you had, okay.
I didn't have any portal involved.
Right, I see.
That's why it was broken.
Okay, that's interesting. It's actually put me off my train of thought a little bit, because I did have something rather important to say, as I always do.
Whatever. Not on the clock or anything, so crack on.
That's a watch, not a clock.
That is a clock on a watch.
It's a clock on a watch. It's a watch clock.
A clotch.
Walk.
A clotchy walk.
Anyway, we must continue. The graphics, very nice. It's crying. No, I haven't, but I want to keep the review going, and then hopefully it will pop back up again.
I'm having too much fun now.
Oh dear. Graphically, looks very nice. I mean, certainly, like, the one area that stood out for me was like the palace with the reflective floors and stuff.
And the rain.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks really nice. It's really well lit. Like, the forest a little bit too dark sometimes, I found.
Yeah, a little bit busy. I think the problem there was a little bit busy. I mean, something I saw in SkillUp's review talking about reusing the floor environments.
Yeah, I didn't notice.
I didn't notice that at all, and that's just the point of well done for SkillUp for noticing that, but also well done to the guys in the development studio being able to replicate and use again a piece of asset like that without it feeling reused. Just well done. The lighting's fucking phenomenal, and the graphics of the scenery is beautiful. It's so deep. You've got this perspective going on that you're playing on a real environment rather than just the whole thing just moving, isometrically for you. Really nice.
Yeah, I remember my point.
Go for it.
Okay.
This is hyped up now.
It's probably not deserving of it. So you get a skill called Parasite. Oh, shit, almost forgot again. Where you basically drain the life out of an enemy, and once you've drained all his life, he becomes possessed, gets all his life back, and then fights for you, and then sticks around. I found that when I upgraded that skill, it would kill off whatever I had under control.
Does it for all the skills?
Yeah, I was just like, I really like that dude, man. I'll go find another one. You fuck. That was my point.
All that waiting time for that. But no, I have to say, it's the same thing with the Londis Moratorium, what it's called. It's where you create him more, and he can follow you around like a golem. I say golem because that's what they were in Diablo.
Yes.
And also you got the feeding swarm.
Yeah, the zombies. Yeah, just
quite quick, but they die quite quick as well.
So you find a nice buffed enemy, and you're like, right, I'll have you. You get him, and then you're like, oh, look, I got some primordial essence to upgrade my skills. I will go back and do that.
Click.
Yeah. I'm like, where the fuck do you go?
Yeah, there's lots of tweaks or niggles, I should say, about stuff like that.
Yeah, I know you, and it's not a huge one for me, but I know you're interested in better labelling.
Yeah, well, it was something, again, mentioned on SkillUp's review.
Why don't you just go watch him? We'll wait.
No, it's a very good review, but he mentioned about the labelling of stuff on the floor. So when you just see the word boots rather than in Diablo, it will give you the either unidentified item, or it will give you the name of the item, but they say like it will be unidentified, and you have to go and identify it back at base. So with this one, you are picking up everything and having to sell everything, but I would imagine the closer you get towards the end game, you don't really want to be wasting time with the lower and nothing, Because I remember in Diablo times, at the higher levels, you just ignore the white stuff and just go straight for the blue and the yellow.
I always sold it. I was very tight-fisted.
Yeah, but town portals were expensive back then.
Oh, what, when you actually had to use scrolls?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But,
or have a spell for it.
Well, I mean, like Diablo 3 in this game, when you can town port for 3, it's not a huge issue.
3.
I want for nothing. There we go.
So I think on the whole, Wolcen is a very decent game. I think, was it 30 quid?
35.
35 quid. So I would suggest maybe waiting a little bit for a couple of patches to come out. This game launched, 2 weeks ago?
Well, it has just been patched. The online servers are back up, which we haven't had the opportunity to try, but they are available now. And some of the hit detection problems for clicking that I had problems with seem to have been abated. So,
so in summary for me, fantastically good looking game. Scratches the itch of the Diablo sort of drought for the last few years and doing something new with it. Some interesting mechanics and enough to keep you entertained. The story is great, and a lot of people have been wailing on the story, but I quite like it. It's strange enough. It's along the same lines of that fantasy horror type thing, and sort of just generic RPG fare. The characters are well enough, and they're interesting enough to keep, and they're different enough to keep yourself entertained, as well as the bosses being different mechanics. I would give this. I can't give it a 7. I always give it a 7. I would give this game an 8.
Okay, I think it's an amalgamation of...
Or it would be an 8 without the bugs.
I haven't had too many, actually. I know you've had more than I do. You've had like rubber banding and stuff like that. I've not experienced any of that personally. So maybe I just got lucky. But for me, it's an amalgamation of existing ARPGs, but that's not a bad thing. When you're picking from all the best parts of your competitors and putting out a title for less money, that's a good thing. So I'm thoroughly enjoying my time with Wolcen, especially now I've turned down the difficulty and the bosses aren't just rolling over me.
I had to do that too.
Yeah, so it's not just me being shit for once. Or we're both shit, maybe.
Yeah, you're going to need to grind up for the bosses. Not grind on the bosses. That's a bit sexy.
Yeah, it is nice that it doesn't lock you into the boss fight either.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it kicks you out to outside.
Yeah, so you can like just bugger off somewhere else and like fight some other things.
One thing I'll say about the mechanics before we do finish on that point is having the same button for your movement and attack is a bit of a fuck up.
But that's generally most ARPGs do that.
But what I mean is there's things like when you have to come back from being dead and use one of your tokens to revive yourself.
Yep.
It's spacebar, right?
Yes, it is. I think
and spacebar's to roll, and you can only do that a certain number of times. So when you come back, I found myself rolling instantly.
I thought we did that
on the spot because I'm surrounded by fucking enemies that just killed me.
I thought that was a really nice gameplay mechanic. I thought they did that on purpose. I thought, okay, so you come back to life and then you roll away from where you were, so the thing that just killed you won't kill you again immediately.
But I normally died when I got swarmed. I couldn't move, so I was trying to roll.
Yeah, that is one thing. You can't get out of the way. If you're surrounded by people, you can't move through them.
Yeah, so that's a point off, so 7.
I still really like it. It's got a few things I'm not keen on. It does have the thing every action role-playing game needs to get it into their brains to have. Let us change the colour of the cursor.
Yes, good point.
Because I keep losing that fucking thing. There's so much going on the screen. I don't know where I'm clicking. sometimes. So if I could make it like a vibrant neon pink, I wouldn't lose it.
Yeah, I did find myself getting lost in enemies a few times. And when you're using minions as well, it's difficult to keep track of them. There's no you've got in Diablo, you used to have a number of how many zombies you've got roaming around, right? Or skeleton warriors or whatever it might be. But in this game, there's no, if you've raised these 2 or 3 plagueling swarm things, you don't know how many you've got. So if they're on the edge of the screen fighting away and dying, you can't tell that they're dying. Then the fuckers come over and swarm you instead.
Yeah, I found I sort of possessed this necromancer lad, and he had like this big sort of circle around him that showed where he could like raise corpses and have like hordes of zombies going out. So at least I knew where he was.
Yeah. So
and then I
keep
upgraded
talking
skill
myself
and he
down
died.
in score. Keep talking myself down. No, I do really enjoy it, and I would recommend it. Just give it a few weeks or so.
I'm
fix the few bugs.
I'm happy to give it an 8. There you go.
Only because I moved down to a 7.
No, I was going to give it 8 anyway. I always feel pressured not to give games 7 because I always give them fucking 7.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give it a 7.
I'm giving it an 8.
So there we go, guys. That's the review of Wolcen. Hope you enjoyed it, because that's us done now.
Yeah, bye.
But yes, we have videos coming out every Wednesday and Saturday, so check back then for some awesome content.
And if you have enjoyed the video, please ensure you subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you want to. It looks like this. Or is it like this? I can't. There you go. You've got both options now. Give us one of those. If you thought we're talking about absolute bollocks, give us one of these. And don't forget to ring the bell if you have subscribed, because then you will get notifications pop up and then irritate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, take care of yourselves and catch you next time.
Take it easy, guys.
Bye.